My name is Rohama. I'm 87, the oldest member here. I myself left home rather early after graduating from the University of Toronto and became a journalist overseas. In England, I worked on a Gracie Fields film with Victor McLaglen called We're Going to Be Rich, but I never was. And in Hollywood, I did the first Commando film with John Loder and Annabella. It was Annabella's first film. When I went back to New York, I worked in the short subject field because it was educational, and that's the field I really like. Then I married a Welshman who was a seaman after the war and bought a magazine from the Rockefeller Foundation in the film field and was its editor-publisher for 34 years. When my husband unfortunately passed away, I did it alone. I have also written considerably for magazines and newspapers.
A few years ago, when I was in California visiting the Queen Mary in Long Beach, we happened to see a newspaper article of Rohama Lee about her.
My mother and I had gone to services, and we had to ride the streetcar from where we lived at the beach in Toronto all the way downtown. And we're sitting on the back of the streetcar, and somebody picks up a newspaper, and there's my sister's picture and the headlines.
I was a paper boy, and I delivered papers, okay? And one day, I had to deliver a paper. And on the headline, it says, Toronto girl stows away on the Queen Mary, on the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary.
Oh, well, that's a nefarious past. As a journalist, beginning, I decided that I must make some kind of a scoop, get some kind of a scoop to become known. And the Queen Mary was scheduled, I was in England at this time, and the Queen Mary was scheduled to sail on her maiden voyage. And I'll never forget how wonderful it was. We were invited to a press party, and you stood on the top deck and looked down on tiny little people on the dock, and the band was playing, and the banners were streaming, and everybody was very excited as the ship lay. And I suddenly realized that I was still on the ship. Everybody had gone, but I had stopped to talk to somebody, and there I was, which made me a stowaway. And I said, oh, great, this is my chance to do a story, because there were no other women. They were all men journalists. Well, to cut a long story short, I gathered a lot of material, and I thought I really had something wonderful. We got to Cherbourg, and all of the people who were press had to get off at Cherbourg, so that I was a stowaway only from Cherbourg, from Southampton to Cherbourg. But I didn't consider myself a stowaway. There was a young man, his name was Joss. He was the caricaturist for the London Star. And he befriended me on the boat, on the ship, and told me what to do and how to do it. But when we got to Cherbourg, he grabbed the phone. And the first thing I knew next day was that I was not coming back with a scoop. I was the scoop. This picture is of my sister, Sayre.
She went on to sing, and she joined Duchin's band, and I think she sang with Red Nichols and his Four Pennies.
She was a singer with Percy Faith's orchestra, and one of the best. And she and Ruthie Lowe together, also from Toronto, wrote I'll Never Smile Again, which is still being played.
My name is Gittel Labovitz, and I live in Philadelphia at the present time, but I was born and brought up in Toronto, Canada. I married a rabbi, I met him in New York, and I married him and went to Savannah, Georgia, and lived in Savannah, Georgia for 13 years. My name is Gittel Labovitz, and I live in Philadelphia at the present time, but I was born and brought up in Toronto, Canada. I married a rabbi, I met him in New York, and I married him and went to Savannah, Georgia, and lived in Savannah, Georgia for 13 years. Then we took a job in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I ended up a rabbi's wife and a speaker and active in the community.
Oh, I was a good little baseball player. I was in line to go into the Olympics for running.
I'm Gail Labovitz. I'm connected into this family. My father is Judah Labovitz. My grandmother is Gittel Labovitz. I am a junior faculty member at this Jewish Theological Seminary teaching introductory Jewish studies to cantorial students, and I am working on a PhD in Talmud and Rabbinics. I think just very much having the examples has been a great influence on me, just knowing that women in my family have been very strong and very active. And I'd say it's actually on both sides of my family, both the Ticktin side and my mother's side.
Everyone returned for the war. Now, my Uncle Morris's son, Jack, went into the Army before Pearl Harbor. There was a draft in 1940. He went much in early 1941, and he was one of the first ones drafted. I remember being at Fort Dix with when I was working the separation center, Fort Dix, New Jersey, and my cousin Willie came to be discharged. He had come from Europe, and on the post there was my dentist, Dr. Bert Krentz. Now, Bert Krentz was Willie's brother-in-law, and I knew that Bert was if I had to get a dentist, I knew to go to him. So Bert and Willie and I met at Fort Dix there. Willie was in Germany, and during the Battle of the Bulge, I heard the story from him that he walked into this tent, this medical depot, and there was Uncle Ben.
We had received a number of letters from Ben Kossen, who was a physician already and was fighting in Germany in World War II, and from Willie, who was in Germany fighting. And one of the letters received, to the astonishment of Ben, he was in a tent at the time, and out of the thousands of miles of fighting on the fronts of Germany, who would he meet when he walked in except his nephew, Willie? This letter is from Private First Class William Kossen, Cousin Willie, addressed to Sarah, to Post Office Box 81, Kiamisha Lake, New York. And the date is August 15th, 1945, from Germany. Dear Sarah Joyce, I received your letter tonight, and it was swell. I'm glad to hear that you're having a good time on the Phil swing, and that your swimming is getting along fine. If you keep practicing ping pong, I bet it won't be long before I would lose. Today is the first day of peace. Japan quit the war. Maybe now I'll be able to get home to see you that much sooner. I hope so. I expect you're a pretty big girl when I get back. I'm sorry that I won't be able to bring back a German hat. I don't have one. Before I was busy fighting, and I didn't have time. I could have gotten all the hats beforehand, but I was too busy fighting. That's all for now. I hope that you are all right. Love, Willie.